Welcome everybody to episode 7 of the Jader and Kyle show. We're back again, guys. It's been about a month and a half of us doing this, and my name is Kyle. I'm a film critic for Cinesportstalk.com, and I'm joined by my buddy Jader, who's also on. Jader, what's going on, man?
What up? You didn't mess up. Episode 7.
Right?
You got it right this time, man. That's awesome.
I've been keeping track. I love Wolf of Wall Street, so I figure, all right, that's the one. That's kind of the placeholder. That's episode.
That's what you're gonna remember. Yeah. I had a lot of fun last week, man. Reviewing. I loved going back to that film. But yeah, no, nothing's good. Worked like crazy. Trimmed down the beard. Yeah, I don't look like a crazy man anymore. I mean, still kept it long, but yeah, man, feeling good.
I saw you went to get your haircut today too. I mean,
it was no, completely. No, it felt it. I don't know if you saw the song that I posted. I posted Reunited because it had been 2 months since I got in the haircut or even went anywhere near a barbershop. So it felt good, man.
I got mine like 2 days before they shut down everything. So I've been pretty lucky about it. Even though it's been 2 months now, I still feel fine. Like, I think it looks good. So, and that's all that matters. It should.
Yeah.
So, but it's not just us today. We have a special guest coming in, and he's kind of a big personality right now. He's, he's the biggest get besides Michael Jordan. So let's bring him in. Here he is. Brandon Hanna joined us today. Brandon, what's going on?
What up, Brandon?
Good to be here. Thanks for having me on the show. Yeah, I got certainly my quarantine hair going. It's all over the place, but I feel like I'm doing an okay job keeping it together. So
you're rocking it, dude. You're rocking it.
Yeah, it's looking good, man. I mean, we all have to try to keep. Yeah, we have to keep up our looks right now. So Brandon, right now, you're obviously most known for the Schmoedown, and you kind of want to tell our audience what you're about. I mean, how it's been going for you lately, because you and Jader both know what it feels like to be traded recently. So talk about that a little bit. Tell us about you. What's going on?
Yeah, Jader and I were both pros in the movie Trivia Schmoedown. Recently got traded to the same faction, so that's exciting for sure. And yeah, there's big tournaments coming up, a lot going on. So if you're not a fan and maybe want to check it out, definitely do it. It's a lot of fun, especially. It's really, honestly, high quality entertainment if you're stuck at home right now. And they're doing a lot of interactive stuff with the fans and bringing them onto the streams, and it's a lot of fun. So definitely go check that out. But aside from that, I also am a host for AfterBuzz TV and the Popcorn Talk Network. So I normally do a show over there called Box Office Breakdown every week, but for obvious reasons, there is no box office to talk about right now. So the show is on a bit of a hiatus. But that's the different places that you can find me online.
I mean, Trolls made a pretty penny.
We almost did a special episode about Trolls, I think, but then we didn't do it.
Going back to what you said about quality entertainment, man. Like, I've been obviously a fan of the Schmoedown for a long time, but I mentioned on last week's episode how going back to work, a lot of my friends knew that I was flying in and out of from Miami to LA, but they don't know what for, right? And I kind of pretty much, I don't know if you gave the same explanation to your friends that didn't know about the Schmoedown. I'm like, it's WWF or E with movie trivia Jeopardy, and it's just like clashes together. And that's pretty much it. When you give that synopsis that quick, people look at you weird, right? So when I went back to work earlier this month, a bunch of my coworkers were like, dude, what's up? Like, you've been lost. How's the movie thing going? What's going on? And I showed them my episode, and they were legit like entertained. They're like, dude, this is awesome. They loved the fact that, the round one questions, obviously, it's safe to say they have gotten a little easier. And they were answering along. They're like, oh, I got shit for the Red Queen question that I missed. They're like, how did you not know that? And then they went back, I think 3 or 4 of my coworkers went back and started watching episodes, and now they have favorites, and they're like, oh, do you know that guy Smets? And I was like, yeah, I talked to him, things like that. And they're like, man, he's awesome, so they start mentioning all these characters, and I love that I'm doing that with just my coworkers, so I agree 100% with the whole entertainment. People that don't know it and actually start watching, and they're like, dude, that was pretty awesome, so.
Yeah, I've shared it with a couple coworkers myself. Only a couple of them, though. I'm afraid to let it be too well known in the workplace what I do outside of work. Because like you said, like people kind of at first are like, whoa, because I kind of describe it the same way. I always say it's professional movie trivia, competitive professional movie trivia with the dramatic flair of professional wrestling.
Yeah.
And people are always like, but then you show it to them. It's like, wow, that's really cool. And I mean, it's obviously something we're both very passionate about, and it consumes a lot of our time. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, no, for sure, dude. And imagine you live out there. I'm here trying to like plan, obviously, like, hey, you know, we had Spectacular and the draft like really like almost back to back. It was a month apart. And I was telling my, you know, my boss, and I was like, dude, I got to go to LA this weekend, that week, and before this whole COVID shit, Christian had already kind of lined up 3 things for me where he was like, I don't know when you're gonna, but this is it. But you have something coming up real soon, which was Free for All. And that was I did my match. Then the week after was you guys were gonna record more, and then the week after that was Free for All. So I had to tell my boss that I was in the same month going to LA twice, you know. And then he thankfully is a fan of me, and you know, besides obviously the Schmoedown with the movie, like, because we're critics here and we go to screening and interview actors and all that stuff, so he gives me a big break. But he was kind of like, dude, how many times are you gonna have to go out there, you know? So it's pretty intense, bro.
Can you guys tell me about Burnett? What's going on with this man? Like, is he as crazy as he appears, or is he a lot more laid back behind the scenes?
Like he's the captain, we are there to burn that shit down. All right.
Yeah.
So he is as crazy as he seems. Yes, absolutely.
He is. He is, but he's also like one of the kindest people I've ever met in my entire life behind the scenes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like if you go and watch, he does his own YouTube channel, like Robservations. He does that show every day. Like you really see his true non-Schmoedown personality come out there, and it's a lot of fun, and he has some good quality content over there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's a
cool guy. Directed Star Trek, right? He directed like Star Trek special features or something on a Blu-ray, and then he worked with what's his name, Shatner a couple times.
Yeah, he directed a film called Free Enterprise with Shatner in it, and he's done he's done a lot of stuff behind the scenes. I met
him real briefly at Spectacular. Obviously, he didn't know who the hell I was. I just went up as a fan again, and I went up to him. I shook his hand. I'm like, I'm a big fan. He was very, very, very nice. Never in a million years, but I didn't think I was going to be part of his faction. Even that day that he announced the burning groups, you know.
I never thought I'd be back.
So yeah, man. But man. I mean, again, I know you have you can tell the audience where they can find your match that you had.
Yeah, the upcoming Inner Geekdom tournament is going to be huge. Playing this guy Saul in the first round, a very heated rivalry. So yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. So
for the sports fan, it's saying Lakers and Celtics, guys. All right. So
oh wow.
Yeah.
There's drama there. There's drama there.
There's absolute drama, man, and it's so much. It's so great.
Let's get to some drama that's been going on in the movie world. So theaters have been shut down for a little bit, and we don't know when they're coming back. But Christopher Nolan has an idea of when he wants them to come back. So Chris Nolan decided that I'm going to drop the trailer for my next movie, Tenet. The second trailer for Tenet came out. And the first one we got a couple months ago, and it was very intriguing. It kind of grabbed your attention, but it didn't show too much. And this one gave us just a little bit more. But I thought what was more fascinating about this was at the end of the trailer, it says coming to theaters soon. There's no release date.
I was going to say the exact same thing, Brent. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of, I think the studio is kind of playing around with this a little bit. It sounds like Nolan's fighting really, really hard behind the scenes to make sure this thing comes out on July 17th. But the studio is being very hesitant about it. So we're going to see what happens. But the trailer itself, the concept for Tenet, what do you guys think about? Brandon, I'll start with you here. What stood out to you in this trailer?
Yeah, I'm really excited for this film for sure. And I think definitely like coming to theaters is definitely with no release date. That's probably the thing that stands out the most, because it's really, they're almost making a statement. They're really putting their foot down saying, no, this is not coming to streaming. This is a film that you have to watch in theaters. Go out, watch it in IMAX. And when the time comes, like, that's where it's going to be made available. I'm a huge fan of all of Christopher Nolan's work. I know some people like are a little like hit and miss with him sometimes, but I even like, I even love The Dark Knight Rises. I love Dunkirk. I love Interstellar. So I'm super excited for this one. I remember I forget which movie I saw it in front of, but they played like a little tease, like a little scene from Tenet before a film. It might have been like Birds of Prey.
Rise of the Skywalker.
Was it Rise of Skywalker?
Yep, Rise of Skywalker.
I mean, that was intriguing. Also, is like really interesting to see that whole like time effect where like things can go backwards, and it's really cool. So I'm into it.
Yeah, well, Brandon, you just punched Kyle in the nuts twice when you said that you like Dunkirk and Dark Knight Rises. Just giving you a heads up. But the thing that stood out to me was also that like trailer was amazing. It gives you just a bit. We still don't know what the hell's going on, which I love. Obviously, you're getting Inception vibes. You even got like the playing with time with Interstellar. So I love all. And I'm with Brandon here, and I already told you, I love Nolan as well. I haven't seen Dunkirk because of this man right here, because he doesn't like it. So everyone, no, it wasn't just you. It was our whole crew. Like everyone that reviews for the site that we were right, besides one person, didn't like the film. They all found it bland, boring, and it just turned me off towards it. It wasn't until recently I was talking to Kaiser, and Kaiser told me that it's one of his favorite war films. And he told me how amazing it. We'll have that debate one day.
Yeah,
eventually we have to review it. So
it'll come up here.
But one of the things, obviously, that stuck out to me was seeing coming to theaters, and again, it was a statement. It was one of those. It was a statement. They literally did a statement, and then after that, you see the whole IMAX really big as well. It wasn't like small or anything. It says IMAX really big on the screen. So that's what stood out to me the most. Obviously. Again, I get a lot of Inception vibes from this film. Like that's the film that, like, obviously, if you've never seen a Nolan film and you've seen Inception, without knowing that it's a Christopher Nolan film, you'll know it's him. Just it has his like fingerprints all over it, But I'm excited, man. It looks great. Robert Pattinson looks great. John David Washington looks fantastic. Kenneth Branagh. The airplane scene at the end, that kind of reminded me at the end of the Inception trailer when you have Tom Hardy say you got to dream a little bit bigger. That I kind of got that vibe from that back and forth with John David Washington and Robert Pattinson. So I'm stoked, man. It's actually coming out the week of my birthday, so if that's gonna be when theaters reopen, I'm gonna be a really, really happy person because I really do miss the movies.
Well, that's the question right here is this movie even coming out July 17th? There's no way this thing doesn't come to theaters. It's definitely going to be in theaters. Nolan is the one, Nolan and Tarantino are the two that will fight so hard to make sure their movies are in theaters. So it's going to happen. The question is when at this point. There's rumors that they might push it back a month to August and take Wonder Woman's spot, and then Wonder Woman move to Christmas. Then you just kind of kick off Dune to give yourself another buffer there. But I don't know. I'm not completely sure when this movie's coming out. As far as the concept of it, I'm intrigued by it. I like Nolan as a director. I really do. I get tired of the hype. I think everyone goes out there and says he's the greatest director of all time. You look at at Twitter and at Facebook and everywhere, everyone claims that this guy is the greatest person ever. And to me, it's just like, you've made 3 mediocre movies in a row. I can't get on board with that yet. I think there's better directors out there. But I'm always going to be there to see his films because they are events. They're
events. Yeah, absolutely.
They're interesting. Like, he's exploring dreams in Inception, and he's exploring like magic in The Prestige, and he made the Batman. He saved Batman because we had Batman and Robin before Batman Begins. So this guy's constantly working with stuff, and now that he's going with time, but not time travel, but how to manipulate time. That's interesting to me. So I'm going to be there to see it. But do you guys think it's coming out July 17th, or are we going to push this thing back?
I don't know.
I'm optimistic. To be honest with you, I think I think it's all gonna depend on how this opening, because Miami basically reopened this week, right?
Yeah.
It depends on how the cases get with the COVID virus. I feel like if everything is maintained and everything's all right, I think we will have the July release. Disney World's opening, and that's major. So I feel like if everything is taken care of. I think their theaters are going to have precautions. The only thing that I'm thinking is they're going to require to wear face masks for, you know, however long the movie is. And you maybe, if you're two people sitting, maybe they're going to have like 75% or 50% like they were doing at the end of everything. I don't feel like they're going to have a packed theater, which could hurt the film. But if that's the only film showing, you know, like come July, you can put it in how many theaters, you know? Yeah. So that's probably how they get the money back. That's just me thinking out loud, you know. Maybe how many movies are really going to release that the day that Tenet comes out? Let's say they have 2-3 films. How many auditoriums are in a theater? Let's say you have, you know, 75% of the theater showing Tenet. People are going to want to see that movie, and that's probably how they're going to be able to do it. That just. I don't know. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, I think the question too that comes there is people are going to want to rush out the theaters, because before I was thinking people might be hesitant to do it because they don't want to catch the virus. But now that everything's opening again, and I'm seeing how crowded all these stores are and these restaurants are, the beaches, everyone's rushing out. I feel like theaters are going to have no problem getting business back.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Everything here, at least, like as soon as we have a local bar, right? But not local, but Flanagan's. It's you know, I think they're only in Florida, if I'm not mistaken. But I live like 5 minutes away from it, right? As soon as they announced that they were open, they reached capacity. People had to wait outside for people to eat, but no one was hesitant on going. Yeah. I was like, I haven't gone out because I don't want to right now, you know. But you know, there are people there, and I talked to some of my old bartender friends went from where I used to bartend with them, and I'm like, hey, how's it going? They're like, dude, it's like nothing happened. We have our rules. We have to wipe down the table, sanitize them, the whole nine. People have to wear masks while they're waiting outside, but once they come into the restaurant to eat, they can take them off. So they have, you know, there's certain rules, but people have not hesitated. Today, in fact, I was out because I went to go get my haircut. I had to go run to Target really quick, and there was a lot of traffic today. You know, there was like there were people out. So I feel like the theater's not going to have an issue filling out, to be completely honest with you. You know, and it's not just here. It's everywhere. I have, you know, friends that live in like North Carolina, South Carolina that I've talked to, and they're like, they told me that they're reopening slowly and that things are packed again. You know, people got cabin fever really, 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 really bad. So I don't think they're, how do I say it? I don't want to call them stupid. But
well, I want to address this because I listen to podcasts about movies and stuff, and a lot of them live in California, and it sounds to them like they're thinking that, man, I don't know if people are going to want to come out, and it's like very, very hesitant to leave their homes. And Brandon, since you live in California, what's the vibe like there as compared to like over here in Florida? Everyone seems to be out and about, but in California, I'm not completely sure.
Yeah, I feel like I mean, people out here are definitely starting to get a little like antsy. They want to get out of the house. Maybe starting to see a little more traffic on the roads, even if it's just people just driving around, just to not be indoors all the time. But yeah, I think definitely like with LA, for example, we're going to be slower to reopen than most other places. I think they seem to be really taking it super seriously here and taking as many precautions as possible. And I don't know if I could speak for everyone else, but for me personally, I am gonna wait a little bit before going out to places. Even when like theaters, restaurants reopen, I'm personally gonna be a little hesitant to do it. And I think maybe like a lot of people involved in the industry probably feel the exact same way, which is also interesting about how that could affect the release of films like Tenet, because like places like LA and New York have been hit so hard and have been taking more precautions than a lot of other states. Those are the two of the biggest markets for theater goers. So it's gonna be interesting to see like if they want to release Tenet, but let's say LA is like, no, we're not going to reopen just yet. Will they cater to LA before reopening, or will you be able to see Tenet in like Florida or Texas or somewhere before it gets released in California or New York?
I absolutely think that if Cali says no, it's going to be a no-go, especially being that the studio is there in Burbank. And actually, when I went down in December for Spectacular, Nolan was in. I did the Warner Brothers tour, and Nolan was there. We were walking somewhere, and then they made us stop, and he walked literally right across from us, and I was like, "Can't go say hi to him." Like I spazzed. They're like, "No,
cool.
dude, no way." So I managed to see him. That was pretty cool. But they told me, they're like, "Oh, he's shooting a crazy scene right now for Tenet." And I was like, "This is awesome." You know,
I just find it funny that Americans got tired of the coronavirus, so they just decided it was over. And
yeah, it's canceled. Coronavirus got canceled all of a sudden. It's not a real thing. You know?
Yeah, it's not real anymore. But something that is real is there's been this big movement for about 2.5 years now, ever since Justice League came out.
Hashtag.
Release the Snyder Cut was the biggest hashtag out there, it felt like. And this fan base that was small at first grew bigger and bigger, where you started seeing people flying planes over Comic-Con saying, release the Snyder Cut. Fans were protesting outside of Warner Brothers studios to do it. And Zack Snyder has been, just throwing gasoline on the flames at his Vero account, saying like, hey, come on, guys, I have a Snyder Cut. It's here. So on, Wednesday, he had a Man of Steel watch along, and he brought in Henry Cavill, and he announced to the world that the Snyder Cut is happening. It's actually going to come, like dreams are coming true for these people. So I don't know about you guys. I didn't like Justice League at all. I remember sitting there and thinking, okay, it'll get better, right? And then you as it first starts, you see Henry Cavill's dumb little baby face with the CGI mustache, and you're like, man, what is going on here? And then they play that stupid song, and you're like, okay, this has to get better. It has to get better. It never does. So I hated Justice League. I wasn't a huge fan of Batman vs Superman, but it has gotten better on re-releases or on rewatches. But now I'm excited more than ever for what Zack Snyder has to offer, because they did take his movie away from him. So when you guys hear this news that the Snyder Cut is being released, what's your reaction to it?
Well, for me, I was really surprised to hear the news, but I'm also excited about it too, because I'm a fan of Man of Steel. When I first saw it in theaters, I was kind of like confused, honestly, like about it. I was like, because he was trying to do like this non-linear storytelling thing, like we've seen what Christopher Nolan do with like Batman Begins and a lot of his other films, and it was like, is he trying to copy it? I don't know, but honestly, the more I watch Man of Steel, the more I fall in love with it. It is like a beautiful film to look at. Like the score by Hans Zimmer is absolutely incredible. And I honestly love Henry Cavill's portrayal of Superman. It makes perfect sense for a modern day Superman. And he was literally like his first day on the job. Like mistakes are going to be made. Like I think we've all heard the complaints. And I really enjoy the Ultimate Edition of Batman v Superman. Even like my roommate at the time that it came out, he hated the theatrical cut and loved the Ultimate Edition. Like it makes that much of a difference to him.
The power of editing, dude.
The power of editing. It fills in so many gaps. Like you're like, dude, that's what that was. Like I had no idea. So for me, I'm really excited to see Zack Snyder's vision of Justice League. I remember when Justice League first came out in the theaters, I actually did enjoy it. I mean, obviously, I'm playing an inner geekdom in the movie Trivia Schmoedown. I'm a huge nerd. I'm going to go see these movies 2-3 times at least, and that's what I did. But the more I have to rewatch it to prep for trivia, the more I go, this really does not hold up at all. They cut so many corners with the visual effects, and the reshoots are so obvious. Like in one scene, you literally see Ezra Miller's hair constantly change when they cut back and forth, and it's like Snyder cut, Whedon cut, Snyder cut, Whedon cut, and you're like, oh my god, this is so bad. So yeah, I'm really excited to see Zack Snyder's vision for this film. I personally like, because I do love Man of Steel and the Ultimate Edition of Batman v Superman. I think I'm gonna like it. So I'm optimistic about it. And I mean, we'll just have to wait and see. I know some people are nervous. Maybe this sets a dangerous precedent for Hollywood, where directors are going to be able to go back and do director's cuts of films simply because the audience starts crying about it. So, I mean, we'll have to wait and see on that. But overall, I'm excited.
Well, we got Paul Feig already Twitter. I don't know if you saw that.
No, I did not.
Well, Paul Feig says that he has a 3.5-hour cut for Ghostbusters. I don't know if it was in jest how he said it, but he did say that he did say that he has a 3-hour cut. So now
David Ayer's been out there too saying Suicide Squad's got a cut.
Yeah, the air cut and all that. So going back to with Man of Steel, that is my favorite DC EU or DC whatever the hell they want to call it now. That I absolutely love that film. A buddy of mine saw it right before I did. He got to review it, and he kind of gave me a heads up about the that moment at the end where everybody lost their shit. And he kind of was like, look, you got to look at it at a very like modern Superman take. And he goes, I'm not going to tell you what it is, but you're going to know what it is as soon as you see the film. And I think it worked for the film that we got. For that film, it had to happen. All right. So I don't get mad at that scene at all. And again, I want a Man of Steel sequel. And I've said this on the show multiple times. I'm pissed that we still haven't gotten a Man of Steel 2. I know BVS was supposed to be that, but for me, I want a standalone Superman film with Cavill because I love him as Superman, as Clark Kent. I just love him as that character. Snyder Cut. First time I saw, and the only time I saw Justice League in full was in the theater, and I was very meh about it, but it was more the ending, the third act for me, just it didn't work out for me. I overall did like the film. I gave it a pass, but barely, right? I tried to sit down and watch that movie again, and I couldn't. Like, I'll skip to scenes before I have sat down and seen the whole thing in its entirety again. This cut I'm excited for. Especially, I think it's more the hype of how much Snyder pushed for it. You know, when you create something, and Kyle, you've directed films before, you know, your short films, when you have that and you're pushing and pushing and pushing, that you really have something to offer, and that the cut that we got originally wasn't what we were intended to see, like it hypes me up, especially, you know, the tragedy that he went through, because it sucks. What he went through sucks, you know? And I felt even watching Justice League in the theater, I did see where I'm like, okay, that was Snyder. Hey, this was Josh Whedon. You can tell about if you've seen their work, you know where it's at. And one thing that I have is the Watchmen director's cut. I love that. I feel like the Justice. God damn it! What I keep saying, Justice. The Watchmen director's cut is phenomenal, and it's it's his work. So one thing also that I found out was that this cut, Warner's gave 30 or 40 million for this.
Yeah.
To keep working on it. I thought it was something that was already done, and we were going to get it on a streaming platform, and that's that. But they gave him money even for reshoots to do what he needs to do, which is
it's a great investment on HBO and Warner Brothers' part, because HBO Max is this big streaming service that's launching next week. HBO Max is launching, and what are they launching with? An Anna Kendrick show. But what else do they have to offer? Like Friends, they're gonna have
they took away Friends from like Netflix, and everybody, me especially, I love that show. Yeah, but that was one of those shows that I've seen so many times, but I'll just put it on background if I'm doing anything, cleaning my room or whatever, or I'm going to sleep. I will put Friends on.
Never seen it.
When I know it's dated. It's a dated show. I am older than I think both of you, so I grew up watching Friends. I love Friends. I saw it during it has 10 seasons, and from season 7 and on, I saw it as it was on TV. Every week, every Thursday, I would watch Friends. So, for me, when they took that show away, it's like, and I heard The Office is leaving now. So the Office is like my backup for Friends, And the first thing one of the first things that HBO Max advertised was, hey, we have Friends coming, and I already know that locked people in. Yeah, me especially. Looney Tunes, they had South Park coming, Game of
Thrones is on there. They're gonna have a lot of stuff. They are, but as far as new content, which is important in these streaming wars that are going on right now, that's what you have to have. Netflix releases something every single week. Disney Plus starts with The Mandalorian, but now this year we're gonna be getting Marvel TV shows. Amazon is The Boys and Marvelous Mrs. Maisel and these bigger series. HBO Max really isn't advertising a lot because they're kind of banking on stuff coming later. So here we go with the Snyder Cut coming out next year. This is huge for them because if this investment is kind of a win-win, because you put it out there and let's say it's bad. The movement's done. There's no more Snyder Cut movement, and you just kind of move on. Zack Snyder's not there anymore. If it's a success, then the possibilities are endless. Do you get another part 2 of Justice League? Do you get a Man of Steel 2? Which apparently there's rumors that Henry Cavill negotiations are happening right now. And we might be getting announcements as soon as next week. I think that's something to definitely think about. But where you go from here, there's so much to think about. I want to talk about the bigger picture, though. What you brought up, Brandon, when you were saying that does this set a dangerous precedent? And to me, this is a unique situation. Zack Snyder's film was literally taken away from him. Even though it says directed by Zack Snyder at the end, he said recently that he's never even seen the film. So, like, if someone's directed a film that they've never even seen, does that even make any sense? And I guess 80% of it is Joss Whedon's stuff. You have people like Jason Momoa out here saying that Snyder Cut's awesome and it's way better than what we got. So to me, I think this is kind of like a one and done situation where you're not going to see every single fan base claiming for a cut or director's cut of all these other films. This is a one and done thing. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, you did it anyways. Yeah. I mean, Jader, like, what do you think about that as far as this dangerous precedent that could be setting? Because we got it with Sonic too.
I think it's a safe bet for Warner's. Like, they weren't going to dish out all this money to a movie that bombed in theater, because it bombed, right? If I'm not mistaken, like
it made 90 million opening
week. It
week.
made money, but they lost money. So it wasn't what they were expecting by any means.
Not at all.
Yeah, so I think this is the safest.
I mean, this was supposed to be their Avengers.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they pushed the fast forward button, man. They needed to build way more. Like, it sucks to say, and obviously they wanted to go a different route than what Marvel did. But Marvel, like, and again, we always talk about. I don't want to talk about Marvel ever again on the show. I already told you this because we do it so much. But for Brandon, I had Kaiser and BC on for a Marvel. We reviewed every Marvel film. It was a 4.5-hour episode on a Saturday.
My God.
God damn. Anyways, but like, if you see that Marvel's being, as consistent as they are, having the hits that they are, and the fan base just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, why wouldn't you go that route? Why would you want to fast forward and jump? Like, they took their time. DC didn't, and it's been, they've had flops and they've had great films, because I do enjoy a lot of their films. With this cut, I felt like it was just a safe bet for, and exactly what Kyle said. If it makes something, if something does happen and people receive it, if it's well received and it's actually great, I feel like we will see. I was reading the comments that our boy Anthony was saying that we won't see a Justice League 2. I feel like this is the possibility to get a Justice League 2 if it's done right. The only thing that sucks is, like, it took, exactly. But you know what? Ben Affleck tweeted this. He retweeted the whole Snyder Cut. He was hashtagging the whole 9. So I feel like he's hyped about this too. Maybe we get a better Batman, because this is my bottle opener, dude. I love Batman, and I hated Batman's character in Justice League, but I loved Batman in BVS. He was my favorite part about BVS. So I love Ben Affleck as Batman. I think he's a great Batman, and he was a great Bruce Wayne. But I didn't get that. I felt shortchanged with the what we got with Justice League. I feel like you can probably even get him back on board with this. Him and Warner Brothers are like this.
You can.
You don't think so?
Robert Pattinson's got his own movie coming. He's got his own trilogies. I don't think you're getting.
But didn't Matt Reeves say that it wasn't gonna be part of the MCU? Goddamn it, with the DCU. Wasn't this gonna be like a Joker thing where it was gonna be its own thing, like its own universe?
You think there'll be 2 Batmans running around, like a Matt Reeves trilogy, and then you're also gonna have the Snyder Cut? I don't know.
Okay.
Let's see how this movie goes first.
Warner never sticks to whatever the hell they're gonna say, anyways, man. If this is a success, they're gonna scrap whatever ideas they had, and they're gonna go with this going forward. That's how they are. That's what we've seen, at least.
Yeah.
So I'm actually really hyped, and I guarantee for one, I'm not gonna jump on the whole HBO Max thing as of right now, but once that releases, I guarantee you I will absolutely subscribe because I am gonna watch it. Now, is it gonna be do you think they're gonna do like how they did Hateful Eight, where Netflix released the extended and they did it on episodes, or you think they're gonna just release a 4 hour, 6 hour long movie?
I mean, apparently this thing's 3.5 to 4 hours long. So let's
Yeah, I
see.
even heard a rumor of it could be 6 hours long, which is absurd to me. 4 hours, 3.5 hours, I can buy into that. 6 hours for a film is way too long. However, I feel that if it's under four, or if it reaches the 4 hours, I think they can probably cut it. If it's 3 hours or 3.5 hours, how long is the original Justice? It's an hour and 50 minutes, right? So we're getting a lot of new footage because I know it's the shortest DC film, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, that was one of the things, was the executives wanted to get their Christmas bonuses. So if the movie came in under 2 hours, they could make more money because of more showings and all this. Yeah. Brandon, as far as the DC universe goes, like, do you like that franchise, or what films do you go back to? Well, obviously you have to go back to all of them, but which ones like really stand out to you?
Yeah, I do consider myself a fan. Even like I could recognize that Suicide Squad isn't the best movie in the world by far, but I do enjoy rewatching it. I don't know, the characters, like the world, like you can tell that inside of that movie they were doing something right, and it got lost along the way.
Yeah,
I feel like the movie has moments. You get me? Like, I like Captain Boomerang, which I can't say a lot about Jai Courtney. I'm not crazy about him by any means, but I really did enjoy him as Captain Boomerang. And once they announced that he was coming back on the James Gunn film, I got pretty excited because I did want to see him return. And I think obviously Will Smith it up as Deadshot. I thought he was good. And obviously, the best part about Suicide Squad to me was Harley, and we already got a sequel, which I actually enjoyed Birds of Prey. I saw that with you, Kyle, right? Yeah, and I enjoyed Birds of Prey. I think Birds of Prey was a good movie. I really enjoyed that movie a lot. So
I enjoyed Birds of Prey as well. I think for me personally, Wonder Woman's probably the best film. But I really enjoyed Shazam. I really enjoyed Aquaman.
Awesome.
I talked about Superman and Man of Steel. I think Justice League is really the only one for me. It's really difficult to rewatch, but it's really interesting to see all this, the way it's unfolding. I mean, I'm not surprised that this Snyder Cut needs another $30 million worth of work, because that's the exact reason why I thought we would never see it. I never believed it was fully done. But I am surprised that they're willing to put that money into it. But I like, when you look at, like you guys said, the HBO Max, what they got coming out, they really need something to get people to subscribe. So I do think it's a good business decision for sure. But I was going to say, it really is interesting to me how, when you look at the Star Wars franchise, when you look at the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you never ever see a director's cut of any of those movies. Like, what is canon, aside obviously with Star Wars from the books, how sometimes they don't quite match up with the movies, but when we're talking about the films, they're like, this is it, this is the story we're telling. Like, you don't like the prequels, too bad, like, it's part of the story. You don't like The Last Jedi, too bad, it's part of the story. And same thing with Marvel. Like, even if you like don't like Thor 2 or Iron Man 2 or one of the lower tiered ones, like that's still part of the story. And they've even brought back characters from the Incredible Hulk just to show you, like, nope, that's still part of this universe as well. But with the DCEU, we've already gotten an extended cut of Suicide Squad. We already have the Ultimate Edition of Batman v Superman, and now we're going to have two completely different Justice League movies. It's like, it's really interesting to me how they're willing to do that while still trying to hold together a cinematic universe as best they could, because we still got another Wonder Woman coming out, and there's going to be like a Black Adam movie and probably another Shazam.
Well, and Shazam 2 got greenlit. Remember, it took a while to greenlight that film, which I felt was one of the better DCEU films. I was surprised that it took a long time. Yeah, I had such a blast watching that movie in the theater. In fact, it ended, and I was like, I can sit through this movie right now all over again, because I had such a blast watching. It was so much fun. but it took a while to greenlight, and I felt like they don't know. They did. I don't think Warner knows what the future with DC is. So they play again. Hey, everybody loved Harley Quinn. Let's make a full blown movie of her. So that's what sucks about this whole universe. But at the end of everything, we're all unanimous here. We're all excited to see what the Snyder Cut has to offer. I'm really, really hyped. I want to know how, because what are they going to, they have to keep it PG-13, right? Or is it going to be TVMA? What are they going to,
Well, I think the Ultimate Edition is R of Batman v Superman, right?
Yeah, it is rated R. It honestly doesn't need to be. Besides the warehouse scenes where he's smashing some heads, other than that, there's nothing too crazy about it.
Yeah.
Listen, if Snyder doesn't get to do what he wants to do on this, I could see him walking away. Like, I could see Warner Brothers saying, well, fix this, tweak this, don't do this. If they start doing that, he'd be like, I'm done. I'm not doing this. And then he'll go tell all his fans that's exactly what happened. That's what ruined the Snyder's vision in the first place, was all the studio manipulation. And you saw it in Suicide Squad, and you saw it in Batman vs Superman a little bit. Like, the studio manipulated a lot. So
I don't think they're gonna do that. I don't think that's stupid, to be honest with you. They're dishing out a lot of money, and obviously they saw the fans' reaction. Everybody's going crazy over this shit, but there are a lot of people that are kind of hating this idea, which we haven't touched on.
Yes. Okay. So this frustrates me. Listen, if you don't like the Snyder Cut's coming out, don't watch it. All right. Yeah. I don't want to hear that you're super angry, you hated all Snyder's films, so that you don't want to see the Snyder Cut, that this is stupid. Listen, fans have been demanding it. It's like on Christmas, you've been begging all year long that you want this new Xbox or this new bike, and you finally get it. And these parents are like, actually, we're going to take that away. That's dumb. You don't need that. That's what these critics sound like. And to me, it's just like, why you got to rain on their parade? They got what they've been demanding for so long. Just let them enjoy it.
Yeah, man. I agree 100%. I agree. I feel like the world wanted this film. And I didn't really, even in the comments, obviously, we all know Collider, and not to bring them up or anything like that, but when the whole this thing has been going on for years, and I would see everybody demanding this film. I would rarely see somebody say, hey, no. I would see people being not negative about the release, but more about this is never going to happen, which I think we were all there. I've said it before. I never in a million years thought this was going to happen. I think Kyle, you said it, and then and Brandon, you just said it on the show. So I felt like it was never going to happen, but I've always was for it. And I feel like the comments, at least that I remember reading, everybody was for it. They were like, yes, let's be optimistic about this. Now that it's a real thing, I've seen so many negative comments like that. Why are they doing this? And I don't understand. I really don't understand. I think it's, again, one of those things like to hate because it's cool to hate, Like Star Wars is cool to hate now, which I hate that. I've said this before. Like, I enjoy, they're not my favorite films, the newer ones, but I think they're great. Star Wars is Star Wars. I'm gonna have fun with it, But it's becoming this toxic trend to like just bash everything now, If it just sucks. So
yeah. So let's move on from that. Snyder Cut, we all agree, we're all excited about it, and it's gonna be pretty interesting. This we're getting a director's vision, and that's always something good. So let's move on to our movie of the week. Movie of the week. We decided to do third films in a franchise, and because Jader and I, there's a specific film we really wanted to talk about, but it didn't win. We'll get to that eventually.
We can let the audience know because we're going to review it regardless. So we were talking about what film we wanted to review, and we picked the third film of franchises, as Kyle just said. We really wanted to talk about The Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah.
And I wish we would have. I wish it would have won, because since he likes the film, it would have been a great debate, to be honest with you. However, it did not win. Our audiences decided that we should talk about Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, which I assume you've seen, right, Brandon?
Yes. You may not believe it by my percentage of answering Indiana Jones correctly questions in the Schmoedown, but I've seen them.
You've seen them.
Yeah, so Last Crusade one, and I was surprised by it too, because we had like Toy Story 3 on there, we had How to Train Your Dragon 3, Dark Knight Rises was on there. I think we had Back to the Future 3.
No, because we're gonna do a Back to the Future episode, so we have that one.
But yeah, we had quite a few options, but every week something weird always wins. And I thought Indiana Jones had kind of fallen out of the public conscious because of Crystal Skull in 2007. And we're just like, all right, this franchise is done. It's for your parents, and that's it. We're all moving on. And I guess all the adults are voted on our poll because Last Crusade won by a lot.
By a lot.
And by going back to watch this again, it's been a long time. So I decided to go back and watch the entire trilogy. I was going to watch Crystal Skull today. I just never got around to it. But I decided to watch the entire trilogy today. And what stood out to me the most was you don't have to watch the entire trilogy. These are really all standalone films. And especially this one, because this one opens up with young Indiana Jones, played by River Phoenix, doing his first adventure. So it's kind of like a great open door for people who are seeing their first Indiana Jones film. Like, hey, this is where this guy comes from. And you even get to go back to teaching school. He's finding artifacts again. And so the story for this is he finds what's it called? The Last Crusade, basically.
The Holy Grail.
No, well, yeah, they're trying to find the Holy Grail, and it's a whole journey with his father, played by Sean Connery, which is awesome casting, by the way. I think this is one of Connery's better roles to me. And I really love this film again, going back. I mean, it's not like I go back to watch these films a lot, but going back to see it this time, I was like, man, there's a lot to pull from here. These are enjoyable films. So, Jader, I don't know. Yeah, you got a chance to rewatch it again. What stood out to you?
I couldn't catch up to it this week, like I said, but I actually did see this movie like a month during the whole quarantine. I'm like, I'm gonna revisit Last Crusade, which I'm glad I did because I hadn't seen it in years. It's a fun film. When I grew up watching the indie films, I always remember Temple of Doom being my favorite. You know, I love the whole cart, short round, and I just loved everything about it. Rewatching them like as an adult, it's become my least favorite. Last Crusade is the one that and it's not a knock on the film because I think the film's great. There's besides Crystal Skull, and Crystal Skull I don't even hate as much as people do. But it is the inferior one compared to the other three. But I don't hate it by any means. But Temple of Doom got knocked down for me. I would always just watch Raiders over and over and over again. And even with Last Crusade, it was one that when I was watching it now, I didn't remember a lot of it, where I felt like part of me was watching the film for the first time. But Sean Connery was definitely a standout. I love pretty much every action sequence in this film. From the moment where he goes down underground and the whole rats and they light it on fire and all that. The tank scene, absolutely loved that tank scene. Everything about it, it was just funny. Like, it's corny because obviously we are in 2020 when this movie came out in 1989. So, there's certain like the background and all that, you can tell it's on a green screen and whatnot. But overall, I really, really love this film. The action sequences is what honestly stuck with me the most. And the dynamic between Connery and Ford was amazing. So
Brandon, like when you go back to watch this for Schmoedown, because I'm sure you have to watch it a lot now. What do you look forward to in it? Like, what stands out to you when you're going back to see these films, and then you get to Crusade?
Yeah, I mean, particularly The Last Crusade. This is actually a lot of people's favorite in the franchise. Maybe for me, I still like Raiders a bit more, and like you, I do not hate the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I think it's fine, and it's actually like certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes too.
It's fine. It's a fine film. I think it was fine. I had fun watching it in the theater.
I think the tone it still fits with the rest of the franchise for me.
Yep, I agree.
But yeah, I love honestly like the big climax at the end with them finally getting to the Holy Grail and breaking the seal, and that very emotional scene with Indy and his father. He's like, "Let it go," So it's I that's probably what I look forward to the most. Is, I mean, who doesn't love a good father-son movie, right?
Yeah.
I think that's why fathers really enjoy this franchise. Indiana Jones has always been the guy that kind of look up to, in a way that's more relatable too. Because I see Indiana Jones as another version of James Bond, and even Spielberg has said that he wanted to make a James Bond movie, but this was his way of doing it. And Indiana Jones is way more relatable than James Bond. You could see yourself as someone who's just exploring treasure instead of this suave spy who gets to do all these goofy adventures. And there's a lot of parallels to it.
Somewhere right now, Kalinowski is having a heart attack.
But for me, the great thing about Indiana Jones, which I think is really cool, is that he's still a professor, right? Like he literally is maybe one of the most important people in the world, literally finding the Ark of the Covenant, the Holy Grail, interdimensional beings like the Sankara stones. Like this guy has seen it all, like stuff of legend, biblical stuff that he has experienced firsthand, and he still goes back to school and teaches classes, and he just does it. And like he doesn't seem to have an ego about himself. He's like, this is who I am. Like I'm still gonna go back and grade papers after all this. This is what I love to do. Or I mean, I don't know if I could see James Bond going back to his humble beginnings.
No, not at all, actually. But yeah, man. What about you, Kyle? You revisited all three, so if you want to talk quickly about the other ones, let's go.
Raiders is definitely my favorite. I think that has one of the best openings in cinema history. That's like, you talk about like making a film. The beginning is the most important part because it's supposed to hook you. And if you don't get hooked in a film, it's really hard to get the audience back. So to have the film open with him and Alfred Molina going through the cave and avoiding the booby traps, and then there's the classic moment of the gold statue switching with the sandbag and running out the boulder. It's all so entertaining from the beginning. And then you have so many classic moments like Marion Ravenwood having a drinking competition with that one guy at the bar. And you have the guy with the big sword in the whatever in Saudi Arabia, wherever they were. And he just pulls out his gun and shoots. Like that's a great moment, right?
You know that wasn't in the script.
Oh, I know the story about it.
So great.
He had diarrhea that day, right?
Yeah, he had diarrhea. Exactly, he had diarrhea, and it was Spielberg or Lucas. I don't know who was shooting that day, but they wanted him to go over, and he was like, "I'm not feeling good," and he does that, and they keep it in the end. It's so great, man. That's one of the
yeah. But just I think Raiders is just, it's so much fun from start to finish. And then you get into Temple of Doom. Looking back, it's goofy, it's cheesy, and it's really not that good. And I think the biggest problem with that film is the female protagonist. What's her name? What's the actress's name? Hold on, let me bring it up here.
No.
Yeah, I can't pull it off the top of my head.
I forgot her character's name.
Kate Capshaw.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she
character's name
has
is
like
Willie.
Willie. There you go.
Yeah.
I'm like, Willie. It's Willie. Yeah.
She's extremely annoying, like really annoying in this film. It's just so many things like Dr. Jones, and she's got the high pitched voice, and she's a character out of like 40s, like a 40s comedy, these slapstick things. And she ruins the movie. She really does. The screenplay is fine. I don't think his mission is very entertaining because it's almost like he kind of stumbles upon it instead of searching for something like he does in the first and third film. So the second one is, to me, not that good. Even Spielberg admits this too. Spielberg said he made Last Crusade for two reasons: to fulfill a 3-film obligation he had to George Lucas, and to make up for Temple.
And to outdo the sequel that was whatever.
Because he faced a lot of criticism for Temple of Doom, and looking back, people treat it like this is a perfect trilogy. It is if you like Indiana Jones, but like cinema wise, the first one is way superior than actually the first and third are way superior than the second one.
I know, and I agree with you 100%. And one of the things I think this stuck to me as a kid because I saw this movie for the first time. I didn't see it in theater, but I saw it like 2 years after it came out. I must have been like 5 or 6 when I saw this movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the you know, ripping the heart out. First of all, the karishma, that shit like stuck with me as a kid.
Yeah.
And eating the monkey brains, like, so for me, obviously, scared the crap out of me when I first saw it. But then, like, just like anything that scares you, you become kind of like a masochist, and you want to keep seeing it over and over again. So it's the one that I would revisit the most, you know. And then I remember when the collection came out for on DVD, is when I practically revisited the first one, and I was obviously older, and it was just, and what you said exactly, the opening scene it's so iconic. And when they show clips, like if they're doing montages of films, and the first thing you see is Indy running from the boulder, you know, and that is literally the first 10 minutes of the first film. It's just so iconic. But rewatching them when the DVD came out, I remember I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to revisit Temple of Doom. And seeing the first one, and I saw them literally back to back to back, all three. Temple of Doom, I'm like, man, I even was questioning. I'm like, is Crystal Skull better than this? Because I didn't have a lot of fun with it the second time around. It's not. It really isn't. I don't hate the film. Again, I haven't seen it in a while. It's been probably like 3 years since I've seen Temple of Doom. But it did not stick with me, and it's one of the ones that I watch it to get to Last Crusade, you know? So I guess we're pretty much on the same page, where for me it's Raiders, Crusade, and Raiders and Crusade is right there. I really, really love The Last Crusade. Temple of Doom, and then, Crystal Skull. That's where they sit with me, at least.
And Brandon, how do you see it?
Yeah, it almost seems like, I mean, I enjoy all four films, I really do, but it almost seems like only the odd numbered Indiana Jones films are considered good. So I mean, that gives us something to look forward to with Indiana Jones 5, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And James Mangold is supposed to be directing Indiana Jones 5, which I think that's a great decision, because you could tell Spielberg's heart was not in Crystal Skull.
Or you can, and there's a lot of, I guess, behind the scenes drama with that film as well. Like, they originally had a script by Frank Darabont that I believe a lot of people considered to be really good, and George Lucas didn't want it, so we got the version that we did. But I mean, overall, like, I do enjoy the film. I'm not gonna knock it too much, but yeah, I'm probably in the same boat as all of you. You know, like Raiders #1, Last Crusade, Temple of Doom, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. But I'm definitely not as I'm not going to lose any sleep over arguing about which one's good and which one's bad. That's for sure. But yeah, Last Crusade is an all-time great film for sure. And it might honestly, I mean, you could say like Raiders is the most memorable, right? Like, even there's the ride at Disneyland that is very much inspired by Raiders with the boulder and everything. But I mean, Last Crusade, I feel like, is right up there as when you think about Indiana Jones, like, that's probably the movie that a lot of people go back to the most.
Time out. You guys got our Indiana Jones ride? We don't have that.
Oh yeah, at Disneyland, 100%.
Oh, we gotta go when I go back, man. I'm a Disney fiend. I love Disney, but we don't have that crap.
It was funny. I went to Disneyland like for the first time a couple of years ago. I went like maybe 1 or 2 times, and I had friends who had lived here their whole lives, and they're like, "Did you go to the Indiana Jones ride?" I'm like, "What Indiana Jones ride?" They're like, "There's an Indiana Jones ride." I'm like, "No, there isn't." They're like, "Yeah, there is." Like, get out of here. There is. It's great.
No, we have a stunt show here, but we don't have which the stunt show is a lot of fun. I don't miss it. Every time I go, I have to see the stunt show.
They recreate the plane scene in the Raiders of the Lost Ark. Yeah, plane spinning around, and
they do the plane scene. They do they starts off with the boulder scene.
Yeah.
And then the spikes coming from the floor where he's doing all that. So it's a lot of fun. But a ride sounds awesome. So when I go back to Cali, we gotta go to Disney, dude.
100%. Let's do
Hell
it.
Yeah.
Let's hit some of the actors in this too. Obviously Harrison Ford, but I think Sean Connery is what we really need to talk about here, because this is his one and only entry in this franchise, and to introduce him as Harrison Ford, Indiana Jones' father, I think that was just such a great move by Spielberg's part, because
he was trying to do a James Bond film. You got James Bond signed on, like.
Well, there you go, right there. it's such a great, and I think what Sean Connery brings to it is a warmness that I did not expect. I thought Sean Connery be like coming into the film, you would think he would be like a standoffish father who neglected his son, and then they fight throughout the entire time. And that's not what you get at all. They're happy with each other. They love each other this entire time, and that's what's warm and engaging about it. Is Harrison Ford, Indiana Jones is the capable one. He's able to do all the physical stuff, while Sean Connery as Henry Jones is able to do all the mental stuff. He's the smart guy. He outsmarts everyone, and he's kind of goofy too. One of my favorite parts of the film is when they get on the plane and he's trying to shoot down the other planes, and he shoots his own plane. Like that's just it's like a dad joke in physical comedy back then. So yeah, what do you think about Sean Connery in this film, Brandon?
Yeah, no, he's absolutely great. I can't honestly imagine anybody else in this role, and I do love doing an impression of him with all these great lines that he has in the film, like, oh, his name's Henry Jones Jr. Indiana was the dog. I love that.
The dog, yeah, hell yeah.
Oh, she talks in her sleep. So it is really great. He's like an older Indiana Jones. Like you could definitely see like 20 years beforehand, like he was probably on the same types of adventures that we see Harrison Ford on in these three films, you know? So it was really interesting to see. It's like, you can tell they're so similar, definitely a father and son, and you really believe it.
And I think it's funny that they both sleep with Michelle Duty's character.
Yeah, so great.
Thing.
Did you see? You knew it won an Oscar.
This movie has an
Oscar. Yeah, best effects. They won best effects.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
especially for the time. I have some fun facts here that kind of stood out to me. Spielberg turned down Big and Rain Man to direct this film. So that would have been kind of fascinating to see his version of it. Both of them are great and classics.
Classics, all of them, to be honest with you. Every single one of these movies that you just mentioned are classics. So
yeah,
pretty bad.
I think that's interesting. This is the weirdest one. 2,000 rats were bred for the production. Not that they got 2,000 rats, they bred them for this because I guess disease is so common in rats that they had to make sure that none of these rats were gonna like danger the crew. So they had to get 2,000 of them born and raised for this film. I mean, like when you hear that, you got to kind of be like, ooh, like that's such a risk right there.
Yeah.
That's wild. Now they'll just do it with CGI.
It's nothing like practical, man. I love that's one of the things I love about those old films, man. That's why I love about 80s horror, like the props and practical effects are nothing compared to CGI, dude.
I'm in the same boat with you, like horror films, like
the
work that goes behind making horror films, especially like you said, like in the 80s when they really had to be inventive with like practical effects and like stop motion animation and all kinds of crazy things. Like the film can't even not be that good, but if you appreciate the work that goes behind it, it's fascinating.
No, and it's crazy. We're getting a little off topic, but it's something I would love to talk about. One of the things that I love the most was I would buy old 80s films like DVD, Blu-ray, and I would watch special features on how it was made. One of my favorite things to do. The Thing, for me, is one of my favorite horror films of all time. And the amount of work that went into that movie with props and effects and how, again, that movie scarred me when I was a kid. And it always goes back that the movies that scarred me the most end up becoming my favorite, right? And I actually revisited a film, Tales from the Dark Side, recently. And it's kind of like it has a lot of like Christian Slater's in it, Julianne Moore's in it. It was like 1990, if I'm not mistaken, when this movie came out. And it's kind of like Tales from the Crypt, you know, where it's like little like 15-minute or 20-minute little short stories. And there was one called The Vow, which completely stuck with me because I saw that as a kid and I never knew what it was, you know? And I happened like 3 or 4 weeks ago to Google like just what I remembered. Gargoyle eating man, and the movie came out. And I found it and I rented it and I saw it. And it's basically this story is a man is walking down the street or something and he sees the gargoyle, right? So the gargoyle, instead of eating him, makes him take a vow and say, if you promise that you won't say anything about me, about my existence, you'll live, basically, right? If something bad will happen if you open your mouth, in other words, right? So years pass, this guy, meets his wife, married, kid, the whole nine, this and that and that. And obviously, pillow talking and all that stuff with your wife. He's like, I had this bizarre day, and talks about the gargoyle. And you see all of a sudden the wife just starts like, her face starts like coming off, and it's the gargoyle screaming, "You broke your vow." And then you see his kid, when he looks at his kids, they start turning into gargoyles. But seeing the pus and bones break, there's nothing like, it's so gross, but it's so great. Kyle, I'm gonna send this to you so you can see it. It's so fantastic.
He looks like he doesn't want to watch.
No, he's like, hell no. But he's not too good with horror. But just that amount of work compared, and the new thing, there was the prequel to the thing that came out with Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and I didn't hate that movie, to be honest with you. But what took me out of it was the CGI from it, compared to obviously 82s with Kurt Russell. I hate that that's what it's gone to. There's nothing like and that's one of the things that I did enjoy about The Walking Dead, because Greg Nicotero still believes strongly in props.
For the longest time, I mean, it was Spielberg and Lucas who were spearheading the practical effects movement. You look at something like Jurassic Park, a lot of it is practical effects. Even look at the original Star Wars, or actually all the original trilogy. Lucas is using mostly practical effects. It wasn't until the 90s when Lucas discovered CGI, and it was like, I'm never going back. But I think the effects are something that does stand out. Like when you think of Raiders of the Lost Ark, one of the images that sits in my mind is when the Ark gets. Yes. And this film, when the Nazi general drinks from the wrong Holy Grail, and then he turns into stone. And
that was awesome.
Yeah. So there's good stuff in this. Another thing I found, that the Nazi uniforms in this film are actual World War II authentic Nazi uniforms. The costume designer was sent a cache of old uniforms they found in Germany, and used them for the film. So, how do you feel? How would you feel about?
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that,
bro. I don't know if I'd want to put that on.
Yeah, no, I hope they burn them after that. Yeah, dude. No, what I got was that originally this movie was supposed to be called Indy and the Monkey King, and it was supposed to be out of Scotland. And I'm telling you, out of Scotland, and they were gonna film in Scotland. It was supposed to deal with a haunted house and all this crazy shit. And then Spielberg thought that I think it was Lucas that wrote it. I could be wrong. But it kind of reminded him too much of Poltergeist, so he's like, I don't want to go the ghost route right now. And and it was gonna deal with the Fountain of Youth and a bunch of other stuff. But the villains were African Americans, and the main reason why it got shut down was the title being the Monkey King, African Americans being the villain, so they didn't want, obviously the portrayal. So they basically said, this is not happening. And then thank God, because it probably would have been dated really poorly right now. And not only that, we wouldn't have gotten The Last Crusade, which is, again, such a phenomenal film. So that's one of the little FFs that I got, or the fun fact that I got.
Let's get into some of the quick questions here. Is this an apex mountain for anybody in this film? Like, does anyone have an apex mountain? Like, this is the high point of their career? Because I think you could make a case for Harrison Ford. I think you can make a case for John Williams too. But I think that's really it. I think Harrison
iconic character. Obviously, Indy will forever be an iconic character. But like his strongest film, no, not at all. No. And even John Williams is, as great as the score is, it's not his best score, in my opinion, at least.
I think the score is the best part of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
I love it, but I don't think it's Williams' best score. He's so many great ones.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's so hard, and it's all depending on taste. Because for me, you guys might not agree with me, but for me, I love the Jurassic Park theme. But it's more a nostalgic even when I'm walking through Islands of Adventure here in Universal Studios, as soon as I hear that theme, like that, I know I'm walking into the Jurassic Park area in the theme park. It's a smile from ear to ear for me. And it's because of the way I felt when I saw that movie. I saw that movie opening night in the theater, scared the shit out of me, But again, going back to the same, I just realized that scared the shit out of me, and I ended up loving the movie afterwards. And for me, it's one of my favorite films of all time, and possibly one of my favorite Spielberg films. But you can't argue that E.T. doesn't have a fantastic score as well from John Williams. The Jaws is that. It's crazy how this man's career has so many iconic scores where it's recognized everywhere, even from movie fans that are like, casual movie fans. I can put the score of Jaws and my grandma will be like, oh, El Tiburón, saying in Spanish. It's a shark movie, So it's just crazy for me. I love the Raiders theme. And in fact, I think we do a top 10 scores when we were doing. I guarantee you I had so many Williams on that because he's freaking iconic, man.
Yeah. Brandon, is this anyone's Apex Mountain?
I really don't think so. I think you hit it right on the head. Is like everyone's great in this film, but it's not Harrison Ford's best. It's not Sean Connery's best, and it's not John Williams's best at all. I think even after this movie was released, like all of them really went on to do, maybe not so much Sean Connery, but all of them went on to do much not gonna say much better work, because obviously this film is such a classic, but like they went on to do amazing things after this. So it's really, I don't really think it's up there for anyone in particular.
I think you can make a case for Allison Duty, because I think it's better than Major League 2.
Yeah, okay.
River Phoenix, I think, is fascinating in here too. A tidbit is Harrison Ford handpicked River Phoenix to play young Indiana Jones from them working together on Mosquito Coast. So I think that's interesting. Two more questions. What's the best scene in the film? What's the scene you guys go back to the most when you think about this film?
Yeah, I think it's what I mentioned earlier, is that climactic scene at the end, breaking the seal with the Grail. Everything's crumbling down around him. And you got, the Indiana Jones reaching for it. He's like, Dad, I can almost reach it. And he's like, son, let it go. I think that's it. Nothing beats that.
No, honestly, that's great. I love that. And I'm probably going to go to a scene a little earlier than that, the switch of the Grail, when the guy just takes it. And again, it goes back to the whole face, thing where I was like, man, this is awesome. Like, so that's probably me. But I really, really do love the action sequence right before that with the tanks and the horses and all that stuff. I'm an action guy. I love it. So that for me also really stands out to me, and I think it's so great. So, what about you, Kyle?
I really enjoy the mystery solving in the library, how he kind of puts the pieces together, and that's when they discover that tomb there. Because it's always nice to see, like when you talk about Batman, people like to see that him being a detective. I like to see Indiana Jones being this explorer who is just figuring out clues, just like his father. I think that's a really fascinating scene that leads into the boat chase and him holding the zealot, saying
the boat chase. The boat chase is awesome too, man. I really enjoy that. Yeah, it's a great. This movie's so great. It's a great film, man.
And then finally, who won the movie? Like, who's the person you think of when you think of this film, and who won this?
Because it was his first role in the franchise, I have to give it to Sean Connery, man. I think Sean Connery won this film. He was a lot of fun to watch, and it goes back. I mean, I couldn't really tell you that I saw this is probably the first film that I saw Sean Connery in, but getting used to loving Indy, because he was my favorite thing in Raiders, and he was my favorite thing in Temple of Doom. Having another character to love just as much as Indy has to really resonate with someone. At least it resonated with me, where when you think Last Crusade, I'm like, man, I love this one. This is the one with Sean Connery, with Indy's dad. So that's pretty much it. Because for me, if you give the first two films, for me, it's all Harrison Ford. And even Karen Allen, I love her. I love her in Raiders. But it's always going to be Harrison Ford in 1 and 2, and in this one, it's you can argue both ways, where Harrison Ford still keeps the film, or Sean Connery kind of takes it from So I give it a con.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. You hit the nail right on the head. If you take Indiana Jones out of it, when I think of this original trilogy, when I think of Raiders, I think Marion Ravenwood. When I think Temple of Doom, I think about Short Round. And when I think about Last Crusade, I think about Henry Jones Sr. So that's immediately like you said, this is the one with Sean Connery in it. Yes.
Yeah, dude.
I go Spielberg. I think Spielberg won this film because he made up for Temple of Doom, which he acknowledges isn't that great of a film. And he made up with it by rebounding so hard that a lot of people consider this to be the best in the franchise. And you bring in Sean Connery to be the perfect father for Indiana Jones. And if you look at Spielberg's filmography, he really doesn't like doing sequels. He didn't do Jaws 2. He did Jurassic Park, the Lost World. And that's considered to be one of his lower films. And so he stepped away from that because it wasn't very good. So for him to come back and do Indiana Jones 2, 3, and 4, and 4 is the only one really, or 3 is the only one people really consider to be a good one. I think it's Spielberg who won this film. So that's who I think of when I go back to this. But that is our Indiana Jones discussion, guys. It was a lot of fun.
Quick question. I know we barely touched on it, but given the I want to say backlash with 4, right? Coming from Spielberg, right? Are you guys excited to see Indy 5 with Mangold?
Yeah.
Even more so that Spielberg's not doing it. Because of Mangold. I think Mangold got me hyped up even more. And he's gonna bring in some of his regulars, like maybe Hugh Jackman's a villain in this. You never know. So I am excited for Indy 5. You gotta do it soon because Harrison Ford's not getting any younger.
He's not.
And are you going to bring back Shia LaBeouf? That's another thing. So we'll see what happens.
I liked him in Crystal Skull, and I like when they gave him the hat. Shia LaBeouf is a hell of an actor.
Yes.
He's fucking crazy, but he's a hell of an actor. I was kind of I don't know if they'll bring him back. I don't know if he would even want to do that because he's not a French guy. He's like kind of like an indie guy now with obviously with Honey Boy and then Peanut Butter Falcon. But I would love to see someone. I wanted him to take the mantle. I would have seen 3 films with Shia, to be honest with you, on his own, being junior, and but Mangold is exactly what you just said, Kyle. Got me super excited because that man's filmography he has the Wolverine was all right, which I still really like the Wolverine, but what he did with 3:10 to Yuma, what he did with Logan. Ford versus Ferrari last year was one of my favorites of 2019. It was in my top 3 or 4, I think. I'm super hyped, but I want to see it soon. Which obviously with this COVID thing, everything's like basically put on pause. But I do want to see it soon. I was hoping we would get it by next year. It's probably looking like a 2022 film. But what about you, Brandon?
Yeah, I'm really excited for it. I would not mind at all if they brought Shia LaBeouf back. I don't think they will, but if they did, I mean, you can say he's an amazing actor. Like, find a way to make it work. Try to keep the character consistent with Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, but push him forward enough where maybe you can fix the things that people didn't like about him. Like, I think there's definitely a way to do that. But either way, I'm excited for it. Like, I also loved Ford v Ferrari. So I think James Mangold can do just about anything right now. So let's see what he's got. And it's interesting all on its own to see an Indiana Jones film not directed by Steven Spielberg and not having George Lucas involved either. I think that's another thing that's going to be very different, and see how it turns out.
Yeah.
I've always thought that Lucasfilm should really expand their properties because they have Star Wars and that's all they've been doing ever since they got sold to Disney. Try Indiana Jones, see what you can spin off from that. So possibilities are endless. Guys, this was a fun discussion here. I think we had a good time talking about the Snyder Cut and Tenet and now Indiana Jones. So Brandon, what do you want to plug, man? What do you want to talk about? Tell the people where they can find you, all that stuff.
Yeah, well, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at BrandonHanna07. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, you can find me in the movie trivia Schmoedown as well. Check out the Schmoedown Entertainment Network on YouTube. You can find some of my matches there. and all my matches there. Really, I don't know why I said some.
Just some.
It's been a long day, guys. And yeah, you can also find me at AfterBuzz TV, the Popcorn Talk Network, those YouTube channels as well. And I do have playlists to the after shows that I've done and all the box office breakdown episodes that I've done over on my personal YouTube channel, along with some original content there as well that I've been working out on. So check out youtube.com/Brandon Hanna if you want to follow me there. I'd appreciate a subscription. Yeah, so it was really great having me on, and it was nice to just sit and talk movies, not necessarily trivia for a change.
Yeah, man. Well, no, we appreciate you coming on. This was fun, man. This was a lot of fun. And like you said, just have some fun, dude. Talking shit you like. So thanks a lot for coming on, man.
Brandon, you're always welcome back on if you want to come back on, man. We'll talk.
No. He's coming back on. Where I'm gonna make him do it for the Dark Knight Rises.
Yes, I was just gonna say, if you didn't say it, I was gonna say it. Dark Knight Rises. I literally watched it yesterday, not even to study, just for fun.
Just for fun. Oh my god. Oh man, this is fun. This is gonna be great. This is gonna be a great episode. But yeah, thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate it.
Everyone, thank you for watching this week, guys. It's been a great episode, and we'll see you next week with another edition of the Jader and Kyle Show.